Kia ora, good evening. The man responsible for the design of the first stadium Southland that collapsed under the weight of snow in September 2010 has been expelled from the Institution of Professional Engineers, or IPENS.
Anthony Stanley Major of Invercargill was expelled from membership of the institution by a disciplinary committee. Mr Major was not only responsible for the design, but he also observed the construction of the first stadium between 1999 and 2000. At an IPENS hearing in December last year, Mr Major was found to have been both negligent and incompetent in his actions. The disciplinary committee was of the opinion that this was a publicly accessible building capable of holding over 2,500 people, and that Mr Major had failed to protect the health and safety of the public by his casual attitude to his professional engineering activities at the time. The same committee also found that Mr Major breached the IPENS Code of Ethics and his attitude and competencies remain below the current standards for a professional member of IPENS. Mr Major's requested appeal of the committee's decision was dismissed earlier this month. Mr Major can continue to operate freely as an engineer.
The Queenstown Lakes District Council is initiating a change to the district plan to extend the area designated as town centre. The extension would utilise land available for commercial, community and residential activities. It would include the council's Lakeview site and additional privately owned land between Lakeview and the existing CBD. A District Council spokesperson says rezoning the Lakeview site as town centre could enable part of the site to be used for high-density residential development, which would help ease the local housing shortage. The proposed changes would also define convention centre within the district plan, making any future development of an international convention centre a restricted discretionary activity in the town centre zone. Letters have been sent to landowners within the zone and neighbouring the area, inviting their feedback, and a full public consultation process would begin once the proposed plan change was formally notified. Dairy prices have again dropped overnight, with the global dairy trade price index slumping 8.9%. The fall of almost 3,800 New Zealand dollars a tonne was led by a decline in whole milk powder prices, down 10.9%, and skim milk powder down over 7%, while butter dropped just over 1%. Volumes traded were also down around 5,000 tonnes on a fortnight ago. Forecasts for milk prices will now be reassessed with revised projections, but at this stage the slump in global prices equates to roughly a $4 billion pay cut to dairy farmers. There is an inevitable change in the air for Southland as we are forced to improve the quality of the air we breathe. Southland is currently undergoing an air plan review in a bid to reduce the estimated 55 premature deaths a year due to air pollution. Around 92% of air quality breaches are due to domestic heating, with burning wet wood and coal the primary drivers. In 2012, over 52,000 Southlanders suffered restricted activity days due to air pollution, and there were an estimated 55 premature deaths due to the air we breathe.
We see increased rates of asthma, hospital admissions, those sorts of things are the primary health effects that we see.
Changes must be made to meet air quality compliance, and consultation has already begun, with ES seeking feedback via a survey on how air quality can be improved.
We had around about 150 odd responses to that, and it was looking at suggestions along the lines of wet wood and also about funding and helping people to make that change.
Before the air plan review is finalised, people can expect a heads up on what's proposed by the end of the year, but there are already some planned change indicators.
Around burning of wet wood and phasing out of less efficient fires. So potentially we're talking open fires and multi-fuel burners primarily. People will still be able to use a wood burner. So we're certainly not taking away the option of a fire, but we're hoping to move to cleaner methods or electric methods as well.
Other initiatives to improve air quality include introducing a good wood scheme that meets fuel standards.
There's currently not a standard. It's generally recommended that less than 25% moisture level is ideal, and we are looking at putting together a good wood scheme, as other councils have done, and they seem to be working fairly successfully.
ES staff are also hopeful a new website will help with education and good burning behaviour.
We've recently developed a website called it's breatheasysouthland.co.nz, and that has a wealth of information on the upcoming plan change, and also tips on good burning behaviour and those sorts of things.
Time is running out, and there are an estimated 2,700 Southland households that will need to make the change from older inefficient burners like open fires and multi-fuel burners.
We have a standard to meet in Invercargill by 2016, so we have to be down to no more than 3 exceedances. So far this winter we've already had 9, so there's a bit of work to do.
Margot Sutherland, South Today News. Running high current voltages through traditionally tough cuts of meat could help improve not only tenderness but also shelf life. Alliance Group has partnered with Otago University to try new approaches to improve meat quality for the international market, and results are looking promising.
This is just in early days at the moment. It was really just a proof of concept. Pulsed electric field technology has been used in other parts of the food industry, but not in the meat industry to our knowledge. So this is proof of concept. There's more work needs to be done just to look at what other sort of benefits we can get out of it.
One of the big benefits will be obviously the cheaper cuts, perhaps becoming more tender, which could drive value up?
Yeah, that's definitely right, and that's why we're there. I mean, in the end, it's all about returning more to our farmers.
What are the indications so far with the testing that's been done?
With the testing done to date, for lower value, tougher cuts, like the hind leg cuts, we're seeing a significant improvement in tenderness. And bearing in mind this treatment is only like a 30-second treatment. Early days yet, we've still got to optimise, but it's looking very promising.
There's been a whole carcass process previous.
Yeah, that's right. For many years now, industry in New Zealand's utilised electrical stimulation of the whole carcass to drive the meat tenderness process. It's basically a whole carcass effect. With this new technology, the big difference with this new technology, it does give us the opportunity to target and optimise the treatment for specific muscle cuts. And basically if we can hone in there and optimise for some of those lower value, tougher cuts, there's a potential for us to lift the value of those cuts up the value chain.
Stay with us after the break. Economic Development Minister Stephen Joyce. Welcome back. Minister for Economic Development Stephen Joyce says regions like Southland have lifted the New Zealand economy out of the shadow of the global financial crisis through innovation and practicality. The Minister was in the region today. Hunter Andrews asked him about regional growth and the government's development of regional profiles.
So the regions generally have lifted New Zealand out of the GFC, and Southland is definitely one of those regions at the forefront for a number of reasons. So there's a lot of talk about dairy conversions, but actually it's broader than that across the Southland economy. It's a very export-focused part of the country.
Where do you see, before we get onto the opposition, Labor and the Greens of course are releasing policy all the time, let's talk about the Southland economy in 10 to 15 years. What is the goal there? What are you thinking?
Well, I think we'll continue to see more of what we're seeing, which is quite a lot of innovation. We're seeing development of all sorts of innovative food products and products that are being exported to markets. As the debate,
value added.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the music things actually about the other guys at the moment, is that they're sort of acting as if they're discovering this whole concept of value added, which Southland businesses and businesses around the country are doing, whether it's in high-tech manufacturing and ICT. They haven't been to see them this time, but the Stabbycraft guys, what they're doing in boats and selling them to the world. We have an innovative attitude in the New Zealand economy, which is serving us well and giving us record levels of exports in a time of a reasonably high, in fact, very high New Zealand dollar. And there's something going on there, and generally it's called innovation and moving up the value chain. And while others are talking about it, most New Zealand businesses are getting on and doing it.
Let's talk about the opposition, economic development policies. The Greens' first day policies out $1 billion over the next 3 years into research and development, and some tax backs for businesses.
Well, I think the trouble with both the Greens and Labor's policy last week is that they don't seem to have bothered to look at what's already happening, both at the company level and at the government level over the last 5.5 years. In fact, it's almost a little bit arrogant. They sort of went to sleep in 2008 and now they're waking up and they're still employing the same rhetoric from Helen Clark's government about the need for innovation and value add. Meanwhile, the world's moved on and doing it. We've lifted the R&D spend by government to support businesses and science by about 70% over the last 5.5 years. We've been encouraging more students into engineering and ICT, and whoop-de-doo, the Greens today get up and say, oh, we should get more students into engineering and ICT and we should spend some more money on R&D.
Let's talk about infrastructure. Well, it's highlighted in Northland at the moment with the flooding up there. There's severe infrastructural breakdown. Southland's got an enormous roading infrastructure, and of course to deliver that white gold, if you like, or milk to Fonterra. Will there be money for infrastructure, or more money? I know some's been announced.
Yeah, look, I think the thing is that we've got to, with all infrastructure, is spend it where the investment is needed. And one of the fortunate things about Southland is it's built on a type of substructure, land under it, which is reasonably solid in terms of the roading system. And as a former Minister of Transport, that's a positive for the region. And one of the challenges in places like Northland and Gisborne is that you get a lot of heavy rain and that causes significant washouts on a regular basis. And fortunately, we don't see that so much in the south. And that's good for the councils and good for NZTA. But we've got to keep investing. So whether it's the Kawerau Falls Bridge or the heavy vehicle production, heavy vehicles that are those routes that need strengthening for the bridges, all those things are being done. And I think it's about making the investment where it's needed and where the challenges are.
Regional profiles, what benefit for the regions, do you think? Why introduce them?
Well, I think the real opportunity, one of the real things that we need to do to keep encouraging growth, if you want to look at how you grow the regional economies over the next several years, yes, we've got to keep growing the skills, bring in the infrastructure like ultra-fast broadband, encourage the innovation, open up our markets, get those trade deals done. But we also need to ensure that we're attracting capital into the regions as well. And actually, Southland's been one of the better regions at doing that, but there's always the opportunity to do more. And we've seen some good international investors here and national scale investors. And the whole idea of the regional profiles is to make it easier for people to say, yep, this is a region I want to be in, here's the resources, here's the understanding of what the port does, the railhead, all those things, and it's all in one place. So you can move much more quickly from I've got an idea to here's the region I want to invest in.
And that's it from the news desk this Wednesday. Sport follows the weather next from the news team. Good night.